Well, I'm going to go get a bucket of paint, and I'm going to paint on the side of one of Jeff Bezos' rockets. I'm going to paint Allegra Edwards, FYI.
FYI.
Welcome to Story and Craft. Now, here's your host, Mark Preston.
Hey, how are you? I'm Mark Preston, and welcome to Story and Craft. Glad to have you back. How have you been? Doing okay? Feeling good about life? All right, there you go. Maybe you need a little break from your day. Sit down. Maybe you're working out. Maybe you're going for a walk, taking your dog for a walk. That's kind of like when I listen to podcasts. So whatever you're doing, thanks for being here and checking out this week's episode. What a pleasure it was to sit down with Allegra Edwards. What a cool conversation this was. Allegra plays Ingrid on the Amazon Prime show Upload. And she is just a real pleasure. We talked about just kind of her career, how she got to play Ingrid. And we talked about a whole lot of stuff from being on Modern Family to acting with Adam Sandler. It is a great talk, and I had a blast talking with Allegra about a lot of stuff. And don't forget, storyandcraftpod.com. Make sure to check out storyandcraftpod.com. That's where you can find out all the social media links, if you will, what's going on, sign up for the newsletter. It's pretty much the epicenter of all things story and craft. Okay, so let's get after it. This week, it's Allegra Edwards Day right here on Story and Craft.
So how are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm really great. I had a very good night's sleep and luxurious morning. It's been a good day.
You're in Los Angeles?
Yes. We live in North Hollywood, so thankfully every day is basically the same weather-wise. We don't have to worry about gales at midnight.
Yeah, once upon a time I used to live in Southern California. There's people like, how could you live there? It's like an incubator. I'm like, oh, I like that. You know, being from Texas originally and having crazy hot temperatures and crazy cold temperatures. And, you know, I kind of like the level vibe that Southern California brought. Yeah. But, well, Kate, I want to say congratulations on actually getting into the second season of Upload. A real quick question. I know, is it only 7 episodes this season, or is it, I was going, okay, is Amazon just going to release some episodes later, every week?
Yeah, we've gotten that question a bunch. And I do think, because they do that for other seasons. I know with Maisel, for example, they kind of do it in chunks, right? And no, we wanted to do every episode all at once. And I do think it's important to point out that we did our best shooting during COVID, and getting 7 episodes in was as much as we were able to do within the same amount of time that it would normally take us to film.
That was literally going to be my next question. How was that COVID shooting thing? I was talking with someone else who's on the show a couple of weeks ago, and they said, it's a big pain in the butt, but it's what we had to do, so.
It is. It was, everything is just slow. It just takes longer to do every little thing. And so, the metaphor that I had been using was like, the train is moving, but we're all pushing it and it feels like it's uphill. So you can still get from point A to point B, but, there's just a lot of hoops to jump through. And I think probably fortunately now, after the rollout of the vaccine, it's probably greatly improved, but we were filming pre-vaccine. So that made a difference too. Everybody had to get tested 5 times.
One of the things I noticed, and I kind of want to go to a little bit of your origin story in a moment, but I wanted to say, I realized, and I went back to the first season because I wrapped up last season last night, or the most recent season. And I was like, this is not because you're here with me, but I'd say you are the most intriguing character because you're the one who has the most interesting, what I think, story arc. You're just a hot mess in the first season, but if you can go from being a hot mess to like where people are feeling empathy for you, that's the money right there. Where you're kind of you get people like going, she's ridiculous, but we love her, But your storyline, and I don't want to give any kind of spoilers away, but. And this isn't, but you are definitely throughout the arc of the show. A lot of your scenes seem to be just you having personal introspection time. When Greg Daniels approached you with this with this story, what the show is going to be about, did you understand what it was out of the gate, or did he say, it's kind of a two-part question, did he also say kind of run with it, create, or did he have a very specific idea of what he wanted your character to be?
It's a really, I don't think I've ever actually asked him directly how much he had in mind for Ingrid's trajectory at the start. I do know that he has always thought of her as being more than meets the eye. I think he always knew from season 1 that there would be a little misdirection about what she seems capable of in terms of being quite menacing or villainous versus what she actually did, which is a bit more brave, courageous, and sacrificial. And I think that was always percolating for him. I had no idea where she was headed. I think there was a little thought that he gave me as if it was a possibility. He was like, what if she's protective? What if she is, she feels very defensive of him? And that was actually just enough of a seed, no matter how it manifested or grew, to make me feel like I could connect with her.
Did you by any chance go to high school with anybody like that you're like, okay, we don't have to name names, was there somebody in your orbit or your ecosystem growing up, you're like, okay, this is her. I'm going to kind of like tap in, use her as my spirit animal. Did you have anybody like that?
Yeah. Not in my personal life, because I think I probably would mostly avoid people that she's quite extreme. So I actually only found examples of the Ingrid for me in reality television. So there are a couple people in the world of Bravo, let's just say, Bravo TV, maybe some Netflix reality shows that are unapologetically extreme and that I just find fascinating. But they also still have some vulnerable elements to them, But no, it's hard to find people in my personal life.
Well, that's good. So would you say that the reality TV, or what do they call it these days, unscripted, TV?
Yes.
Is that kind of your guilty pleasure, kind of like something you dive into, or was it strictly research?
Oh, I would love to say that it's strictly research. It is a guilty pleasure, but in moderation. I'm not like die hard. I'm not watching every single Real Housewives, but I'll occasionally watch recap episodes. I go onto YouTube and I watch recaps of reality television. So I feel better about not spending 2 hours of time.
Well, I will admit, I'm not into reality TV, but there was, because I got a couple years on you. So I kind of look at the OG reality TV. It was Real World on MTV,
Yeah.
But there was a show on, I think it was Lifetime. It was a scripted series about making a reality show, and I cannot for the life of me remember the name of it.
Unreal.
Yeah,
Unreal.
I actually really enjoy that show. So
yes, excellent performances in that show. Oh, that's a terrific show.
Where did you grow up? Are you from Southern California?
I moved all over the place when I was growing up. So I was born in the Bay Area, then we moved to Southern California, then Virginia, then Colorado, then Hawaii, then back to Colorado, all before high school, all before graduating and going to college.
Was your father in the military, or?
That's the next question everybody asks, and it's not. No, those just happen to be like states with a strong military presence, and maybe he was, and he just never told us. But no, he was in consulting and fundraising, and so I tend to say that I'm from Colorado, but I actually do feel like I have a background in each of those areas.
Well, I'm very envious that you spent some time in Hawaii. My youngest daughter, my 16-year-old, wants to go to University of Hawaii at Manoa, and I'm sitting there going, you know what? To get that in-state tuition, which is a big savings, I would have to move out there also. So I'm scheming.
Yeah, work the system.
Indeed, and she loves her some spam musubi. I'm sure you had a bunch of that was growing up.
Yes. So good.
It doesn't sound good, but it is,
But it is.
Now,
it is so
now,
good.
were you kind of the quintessential high school theater kid? Were you going to auditions? Kind of where was the genesis of kind of how you landed here?
Yeah. So I started really little. I was involved in dance from a very early age, and then my dance studio offered theater camps during the summer, and then modeling classes as well. And then I just got exposed to a lot of theater very early. And my parents would actually take me to touring Broadway productions when I was 6, 7, 8. They exposed me to it often and early. And then in high school, I was in the improv troupe. I auditioned for every play. Yeah, that was my world. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so funny. I envy I ended up doing this. I started at 17 working in radio in Dallas, where I'm from, and I knew all the kids at the theater kids. I was like that's a very dramatic bunch of people. You mean I didn't realize actually that's my tribe, and I don't. It blows my mind. Actually, there is a couple people I went to school. One's a director now. One guy's a screenwriter, and I was like, I should have hung out with them more. I would have gotten some more credits on IMDb.
Well, I do. I want to point out, like, that is something that, like, I think people say, oh, they're so dramatic. Like, there's actually a difference between being dramatic and being theatrical. And I think you know what I mean. There's actually, I don't know if there's much drama in the drama department necessarily. There is theatricality, there's size, there's certainly hams and clowns. But yeah, I think those words get swapped often, and I'm on a mission to swap them back.
No, and I agree with you. I kind of use an example of John Lovitz's character on Saturday Night Live, and I don't know the name of the character, but he would always, people would think he was being serious. It's like, but I was acting, you see. But I'm a thespian, you see. But yeah, so was the trajectory to stay on this path, or when you got to college, did you have that? Your parents are like, okay, now you have to prepare for a real job if this acting thing doesn't work out. Did you go that path, or did you just stay on track with your theatrical vibe?
I had no other interest. I had nothing else pulling me in any other direction. And I had two parents that said, go for it. And that, I realize now, especially, is such a gift. They were never pressuring me, to build in any back doors for myself. And I know part of it may have been, my dad, went to Stanford and studied economics because that was the only way his father would pay for his education, is if he went to school for econ. And then all of his extracurriculars and electives were in theater. And he'd get just C's in economics, but that he'd soar and excel in all of his theater classes. And I think there was this thing of like, if she's going to go to college, then I want her to pursue what she wants to pursue and do it wholeheartedly. So no, I never explored anything else.
Now, where did you go to school?
So for undergrad, I went to Pepperdine in Malibu for theater and television. So that was a combined major. And then I got my MFA in acting at ACT, which is the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. And that was a 3-year program, graduated in 2013.
Is there a preference for you for comedy or dramatic roles, or is it just you just kind of want to take it all in? I mean, whatever opportunity comes your way.
I definitely gravitate more towards comedy. That is my comfort zone. And in terms of what I enjoy watching and absorbing as an audience member, I love shows that have a balance of both. As an example, some recent shows that I've sort of just eaten up are Succession or White Lotus or Our Flag Means Death, which I think are all writing this fascinating middle ground of like, no, we can do heart and we can do intensity and we can be laugh out loud funny. We can do it all at the same time.
Well, that's something you're already doing, I think. And again, it's not just because you're here, but I was going, there was a scene, and let's see, I can say without giving any spoilers. You were sitting next to a tub. I think you know what scene I'm talking about. Okay. And it was just you, and that was just... It was mildly heartbreaking a little bit because I was like, wow, that's okay. Shifting from comedy back and forth. That's, and again, that kind of goes to what I said before. You seem to have a lot of scenes, for all intents and purposes, you're solo in the scene. And do you find that to be more challenging at all? Or does it make a difference if you have someone there with you to bounce off of?
I do think that when you're alone, it does feel a little bit more naked, and you have to rely. I find so much value in having a scene partner, because they're just, especially really great scene partners, are there for you to access and to rely on and to look to and to investigate and to, relying on yourself for that imaginative work can be challenging, and also very, very vulnerable, because you're not alone when you're making TV. You're in a room full of people. So even if Ingrid is alone, there's the director's watching me and the sound guy is listening to me, and hair and makeup is just a room away staring at every little thing on my face. So I know I'm being watched.
Getting up
but
all
I
in your
have
grill,
to,
taking Polaroids and things like that. Yeah.
oh yeah, all of it. But you got to pretend like all of that isn't there, and that this person is alone, even if the actor is so not alone.
Again, like you have a lot of scenes that are solo, but I think the Owen Daniels, the AI guy, is literally, I think, in almost every single scene. I was like, that's got to be one of the hardest working guys in Hollywood. Whether he's got lines or not, he seems to show up in every, because he's got to,
Yeah.
To kind of go back, what was kind of your first, be it on camera, I'm sorry, theatrical or TV, project? What was one of the first things that you kind of felt like, okay, I'm here, I'm doing this thing, I've got to, I'm in the ecosystem, as it were.
Yeah, I booked a very small role on Modern Family when, I guess that would have been like 2016, something like that. And that show had been written in my journal with little doodles and hearts and stars around it, as a pinnacle, as a thing to reach someday. And I just so happened to land a small role very early on in my career, and it felt too big and unwieldy for me to comprehend getting to be a part of it. So while it felt like, oh my goodness, a dream come true, I also had that equal and opposite, you're not ready for this yet pull. And it was kind of a gift that the role was so small, because it meant that I could get a taste of what it could be like to maybe one day be a series regular, but know that I needed a lot of time in between to prep and feel like, okay, now I'm in a position where I feel confident enough or skilled enough or experienced enough to carry a show as an ensemble member and not just as a little guest character.
Yeah, it's kind of like you don't know what you don't know, kind of a thing. And
Yeah.
so much of acting is on the job training, no matter how much training you've gotten.
Correct.
Just I found that the handful of times I've done something, I tell my friends or students, I said the biggest nerve-wracking space of time for me is when somebody on the set says lock it up, between that hammock of time between that and when the director says action.
Yeah.
I mean, my nerves are just like, I was like reminding myself,
Yeah.
your lines, you're fine. It's because it just gets quiet.
Yep.
People are buzzing about, I've never, you mentioned hair and makeup sound. You let people do things with you and to you, and you never would put your hand on your shirt, getting your microphone right. I was like, I would never let that happen normally. So I've always found that TV is kind of a fun, you got to knock it out faster. Like how long did it take per episode? It's a 30-minute episode, but how many weeks does it take to shoot each episode rather, during COVID, of course?
Right. We are on a block filming schedule. So occasionally we'll have one director take 2 episodes on at a time. And so there'll be some overlap. I'm pretty sure the expectation is about 2 weeks, maybe 10 days per episode. And then, and like I said, there'd be some bleed over. So yeah, 1 to 2 episodes would take maybe 2 to 3 weeks, which is it's fast and slow at the same time. It's pretty quick.
Now, do you have a preference? Do you like the shooting schedule, staying close to home, making TV, or are you totally down with traveling and setting up shop for a couple months, 3 months, in some other location?
Yeah, I love the traveling aspect. I think I actually think it probably helps me focus more, honestly. If I were to be living half an hour from the soundstage and driving myself to work like a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, I might take it for granted more. But if I'm on a plane going to Albuquerque, for example, and shooting in the desert and completely outside of my regular environment, how can you not let that inform your character? And you're there. You have to remind yourself you're there to work. You're not there to try every amazing Mexican restaurant in Albuquerque. You're there to do your job, or in Vancouver, especially during COVID, it was like we're not here to get out of our LA quarantine. We're here to work. So I find it to be really helpful for focus to go out of state or out of town.
Now, is your husband part of the biz as well?
He was for several years. He was on a very popular show on Disney Channel when he was in junior high. So a lot of people still recognize him to this day from that, which totally surprises me because I see him as this like full-grown, bearded, muscle-bound man. But admittedly, I watched him on TV when I was 12 years old too. So occasionally I'll see his little.
Yeah, I've got a 19, a 17, and 16-year-old, and every single theme song from it'd be a Jesse or was it Shake It Up and all. I mean, I can literally, the moment somebody says the name of the show, the theme starts playing in my head. I'm like, God, geez, it's like Disney PTSD or something.
Completely, yes.
So he's very, he understands the flow. He understands if you're totally fried at the end of a day, he understands you need kind of a little me time. So in other words, you got somebody who's floated in the same ecosystem, and he understands.
He has.
What's going on.
It's kind of the best of both worlds because I'm so appreciative. He's got a really good eye too, just directorially, and I audition almost exclusively from self-tape now.
Isn't everybody doing that pretty much?
2020. Everybody. I mean, I've had maybe 2 in-person auditions in the last 2 years, and I'm being fully, that is literal.
I got so busy that, it's living in LA when you have to you run out to an audition. You got to block half a day at least, traffic.
Oh, yeah.
And I was talking to another actor not too long ago, and he's like, man, everything's self-tape. He's like, you know what I'm doing now? He said, I got a teleprompter too. He said, it makes life so much easier because I'm not fretting over memorizing. I'm bad at memorizing. So I was like, really? A teleprompter? He's like, yeah, I'll get you the app. I'm like, so. But yeah, so that's a lot of freedom where you could submit all over, and every opportunity is, saved for the callbacks, of course. But now I did see you worked with Adam Sandler on Sandy Wexler. And that's one of his movies I've yet to see. My kids and I love 50 First Dates. It's like anything to Adam Sandler, it ends up showing up on TV at our house. But what was it like working with Adam Sandler? Is it because he's one of the few guys out there who has kind of his own ecosystem of people that float with him, be it, I'm sure, crew, but definitely the people on screen. What was that experience like?
Yeah, it was. So that was my first film. Actually, might still be one of my only feature films that I've done. You're right. He is surrounded by people that he trusts and that he's worked with for years and years and years on many, many projects. So there is this comfort and familiarity and ease that everybody has on his set. He was lovely. He was a joy. He was very comfortable, and he was a really nice guy, and he enjoyed the process. You could tell that he was having a good time, and he also really likes to laugh. So I was kind of clinging on to Milo Ventimiglia for my dear life because he was my scene partner.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. And he could tell I was really nervous, and meeting Adam and kind of being there, it was like, why are we nervous? This is playtime. It's a really silly movie, so we don't have to be precious about it. We can be more relaxed. It's okay. It's just a grocery store.
Kind of getting back to upload. You're such an important part of the show. Is it something where does that create any kind of not nerves, that's not the phrase I'm looking for, but I mean, it's enhanced responsibility, most certainly compared, you certainly it's a well-deserved gig for you without a doubt. Is it kind of nerve-wracking a little bit because you are now straight up a regular showing up in every episode?
Yeah. Yes, it's both. I have more of a sense of responsibility for sure, and I do feel pressure to carry more of a central storyline and not just I I can't hide, and it's me, and it's going to continue to be me, knock on wood, unless something happens. They replace my face like they do Mildred. But yeah, so that comes with some pressure, but also simultaneously, it comes with confidence because I'm not picking up what something else has created and trying to carry it. I'm continuing to carry what I created. And so there is this nice thing that's happening right now where I feel like I know her well enough that we could start to sort of jog together. Like season one was sort of just getting used to being on the horse, and season two is now, okay, now I'm really on the trail with the horse, and I know how to ride the horse. And now, like, I would love to get to a point where we could really gallop. You know what I mean? And so there is an innate sense of confidence that comes with that sort of responsibility too, which I didn't expect. I wasn't ever expecting that. Yeah.
Well, it seems like you have a real muscle memory for who that character is. I also I just I remember the scene of the not the wake, but the funeral service. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's just terrible. First season, second season is like, okay, now your colors are showing. Now more of a human is there. I'm really, and like I said, I really enjoyed it. But now, besides, of course, we were talking about the reality stuff. What is it that was inspiring you? What were you watching that were like? You see an actor and you go, God, that is turning me on. I want to do this thing. I want to up my game. What was inspiring you along the way, even right now?
I am right now a pair and a person come to mind. The first person that comes to mind when I think of who is completely inspiring me is Olivia Colman, because I think she was known for so long for being incredibly gifted in comedy, but also just supporting so effortlessly. And now she's come into her own and had this amazing trajectory and longevity in her career where she's the central point and can absolutely carry it, and she's just a ball of nerve endings and is so available and is so seen. And I saw her work in The Father with Anthony Hopkins. I was just blown away by her ability to somehow be totally subtle and also huge at the same time. So I love her. And then the other people that I'm tracking and I'm so curious to see what they do next are Maya Erskine and Anna Konkle from Pen 15, which is a show that they created together.
Is that a Hulu show, I think? I think that's a Hulu show. Yeah, okay.
Yes. And they're 30-year-old women portraying 13-year-old versions of themselves. And I forget that they're 30 years old. That's how good they are at it. And it is hysterical and heartbreaking and compelling and wild and weird. And I've never seen anything like it. And knowing that they perform it and wrote it is just thrilling to me. And I cannot wait to see what they do next, both separately and as a pair.
I definitely need to check that out now because I did see it in passing on Hulu. Now, but as far as when you're coming up, I would say growing up, but when you were putting yourself into, you're in classes, you're studying. As a kid, what was inspiring you?
Yeah. So I I really was taken by Pirates of the Caribbean. And the reason I say that with a laugh is because it's not cinema per se. But I remember watching that movie for the first time, the very first one, the Curse of the Black Pearl, OG, Keira Knightley, all that. I remember watching that and realizing as I was watching it, they must be having so much fun. They're running around a tropical island, jumping into water with missing teeth and corsets and trampolines and skeletons. This looks like so much fun. And I had not had that experience before, watching something that made me go, what was it like to make it? So that left an impact on me for sure.
I was listening to an interview. Funny you say, I was listening to an interview not long ago, and an actor was, I think it was Dax Shepard, was saying, for him, when it comes to me doing a movie, it's not just, he doesn't remember the box office take or whatever. It's always, what was it like making it? That's the decision making factor for him, and I could see that would definitely, especially, if you have a family, it's like, what's the kind of experience I want to have, as far as experiences you want to have, like, is there a director you're like, oh, I'd love to work with them, or work within this genre, or something that you have on your bucket list? You talk about when you were younger, you had that little, you wanted to be on, Modern Family. Is there something on that list now that you haven't done yet?
Definitely. So, I have been a fan of Jason Reitman for a long time. He has now transitioned from these amazing indie films into doing this incredible version of Ghostbusters.
I still want to see
Afterlife
that. Yeah,
came out. Oh gosh,
he did a great job with George Clooney and I think it was Up in the Air. I think is what it was.
Up in the Air, one of my favorites. Love that movie.
That I think was one of his George Clooney next to The Descendants. I think are my probably two favorite performances of him. Outside of the Danny Ocean thing, but.
Sure. Well, iconic, but yeah. So Jason Reitman for sure. I'm also tracking Rian Johnson and the Knives Out kind of thread, and then I of course I love Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Speaking of Olivia Colman, I think she's really keen and rides that line of keeping everybody laughing and then ripping the rug out from underneath them in a very satisfying and theatrical way. And then, I've always wanted to do Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and I think that train has left the station because I'm pretty sure they're like filming season 5 as we speak. So I think that might
maybe
be
they're thinking, man, we can't get Allegra, man. We can't get her. It's like
you can get me. please come get me.
I've seen a few episodes of that. It's so funny. There's so much good stuff on TV now. I was talking to a director, Ariel Vroman, and he said, listen, he's like, there's so much work out there with all the streamers, all the, there is literally, if you want to work, there are opportunities out there. I think I love the niche you carved out with this show. And I'm like, I thoroughly enjoy it. And now, granted, of course, the rest of the cast, Robbie's wonderful and everything, Andy Allo. But who do you spend most of the time with when you're shooting? Based on, like we discussed before, that you're kind of solo in a lot of scenes. But who are you spending most of the time with? I always kind of found the craft food tables where I kind of, until I learned my lesson, I ate too much one day, and I was like, oh God, I need to take a nap. Oh, call time's in 5 minutes. Great. So
you got to pace yourself.
So who are you spending time with? Kind of a two-part question. And do you ever see something on the script and go, you got to run to them and go, did you see this? Did you see what we're going to do? This is just ridiculous, and it looks like fun,
Yeah. Well, it's I would say that I'm often I connect with all of them, and I mean that sincerely. The main 5 castmates are all kind of around the same age, and we're past we don't have to go out late at night, and we're eating healthy, and some of us are married with kids, and so there's this sort of mutual respect with everybody. I think I probably connected the most with Andy Allo, which is funny because we don't have a ton of scenes together, particularly in season 1. But I think she and I were mutually in this like, whoa, this is the biggest thing we've ever done, ever. I mean, obviously she toured with Prince, so that's one of the biggest things she's ever done ever.
Wait, she toured with Prince?
Yes, you should look up. Yes.
I'm definitely. I hope I bump into her somebody's like, please tell me what it's like.
It's worth a Google for sure. But yeah, she and I think both were like, wow, this show is changing something for our trajectory as performers, and also like, so I think there was like a mutual like arrival moment that we both would feel like we could confide in each other about. This is crazy, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of amazing. Isn't this great? This is great. This is, yeah. How are you feeling? How are you doing? but I really do get along with all of them.
Yeah, it's sort of like not going to summer camp.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not like necessarily going to summer camp or something, but it's sort of like when you get to have an experience with somebody, that's somebody that's going to be in your, kind of high up there in your speed dial for the rest of your life. Because it's like, remember we did that thing, it's, we can, I don't want to say you came of age, but I mean, most certainly this is, I think it's one of the more interesting shows on TV. It's an interesting premise. It's kind of a reverse. Some people say, do we live in a not virtual reality? Do we live in a simulation? I was like, well, this kind of flips it and actually puts somebody in a simulation, so it brings up, very mildly brings up moral questions, even brings up even mildly religious questions. I mean, all while being funny as hell. For 30 minutes, it really covers some ground.
That's so true.
Now, are you shooting anything right now? Anything that coming up that we can look forward to seeing you in?
Currently, I am not. I am prepping to become a mom. I'm in real life. Clayton and I are expecting a baby in July. So that's
as my people say, muzzle tough,
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Hey, I got 2 words for you. Diaper genie. Trust me, it will change your life. Diaper.
I remember Diaper Genie.
That is, let me tell you something. That is a necessity above all else. Babies can make do, but I'm just telling you, it's one of those things. I always, whenever a friend of mine has a baby, I'm like going on Amazon and sing him a Diaper Genie. So now, when are you expecting?
July, some mid-July. So as you can imagine, that kind of limits a little bit what I'm able to either work on or audition for right now, and at least for the time ahead. And I think we're also hoping that we'll get picked up for another season, and I'll get to go back to work with Upload. That would be really nice. I mean,
I'll speak to the manager of Amazon, and I'll demand it.
Thank you.
I'll go full Karen.
Thank
I
you.
need to speak to the manager of Amazon, please.
I believe it's Mr. Bezos at Amazon.com.
Again, the show I think is so unique, and I think your character. This is, I know for a fact. I mean, a couple 3 years from now, I'm gonna like, hey, I talked to her when she was doing the show on Amazon. But one of the things I love doing with everybody, I call it Preston's Lucky 7. Kind of like wrap up our time together. Just 7 questions. Give a little extra insight that I think I'm kind of a weirdo. My kids tell me I am, so I must be. First question is, what is your favorite comfort food? That thing, like you see it show up on the craft service table, and you're like, oh, I'm going to take all of it. What's that thing for you?
Smart Food white cheddar popcorn. That's the easiest answer because I got it yesterday at CVS.
You know what? I used to love it, and then I hated the crap out of it. I was working at a radio station in Dallas. I was 19 or 20. And at the end of the summer promotional season, they had boxes, because they would give those things out at live broadcast. They had a bunch of little bags. Okay. And they said, here, take all you want. I got 3 enormous boxes of it. And after a while, I'm like, I can't stand this anymore. It's like I'm just eating Smart Food popcorn all the. I had to take a hiatus for a year or 2. But I agree, it is tasty, without a doubt.
So good.
Now, if you're going to sit down, you're going to be cruising, let's say, the Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf on Sunset. It was right across from the Directors Guild. I always used to kind of post up there with my computer once upon a time. If you're sitting down, having a cup of coffee, who are the 3 people you would love to have sit down with you? Kind of your dream dinner, your dream coffee guests, as it were.
Okay. This is weird. I don't know if you'll have heard of this person. But I would love to sit down with Jad Abumrad, who is the one of the co-hosts and creator of Radiolab. It's a podcast that I love. I have just consumed so much Radiolab over the years. I am captivated by the way that he somehow makes science, which is not normally my favorite subject, so compelling and human. And I feel like he must have hundreds of stories. So that's the first person.
So he's kind of in the realm of like Neil deGrasse Tyson, sort of, in a way.
Kind of, but he's a storyteller, and he is an audio engineer and a sound designer. So there's an element to him that is about good storytelling first and then science second. And I have just, I'm so about that. Then who would I pick? Um, I mean, I've said her before, I'd pick Olivia Colman just to pick her brain and see what it's like to be in her shoes right now and how she got to where she is. And I also think she's delightfully funny, and I could just watch her. I think her behavior is just fun to watch.
I think people like, especially my favorite actors, and honestly, I was going to give you that compliment. You strike me as being one of these people, without dialogue, you're just interesting to watch. I think Sam Rockwell, for me, is one of those guys you just watch. He's just interesting. You can almost read his mind, And even without dialogue, I always find that those are the most captivating people for me. Even without the dialogue, they still grab my attention. Yeah. So who'd be the third person in your coffee party?
The third? Oh boy, this is hard, man. Three people is hard. Oh gosh, who would it be?
You can go for the crowd favorite, say your husband, because you love him so much. That would.
I do. I know. He was actually who I thought of, but I was like, people are gonna roll their eyes if I say my husband. But I actually think that we'd have a great time. He'd help me ask better questions.
You'd have a shared experience. Isn't it more fun sharing the cool experiences in your life with someone?
Forever.
Indeed.
Yeah, thank you for giving me that. And he'll be happy that you said it. I promise I thought of it too.
Well, I got a check sitting right here that I was told to. No, I'm just kidding. So when you were a kid, who was your celebrity crush when you were young Allegra? Who were you going, I cannot wait to watch him on TV?
Yeah, I was obsessed with the actor that played the famous Jet Jackson, who is a Disney Channel star. He actually passed away a few years ago, which made me really sad, but I thought he was so attractive and so funny. Similarly, I really loved Will Smith. Still do. But Will Smith in Men in Black, he's...
I quote some of the there's this one quote in that movie I give my students all the time. Like, whenever somebody hires you, don't, command your rate. Say, don't call me son, sport, whatever. I'm here because you recognize the skills.
Yeah. Yes. I'm not your boy. I'm not your son. Yes. Oh, I love that movie.
And then Tommy Lee Jones. All right, sport. Tommy Lee Jones doing this thing.
Yeah.
Now, if you're going to be living, next question, on an exotic island, 1 year, anywhere, somewhere it's actually you enjoy being there, but you can only bring one DVD and one album with you. What are you going to bring with you?
Okay. Probably Good Grief by Lucius would be the album. I love Lucius. It's my favorite band. And one DVD.
Because I figure, streaming, I don't know if they're doing streaming on the island, so I'm going to go old school, because I'm older. My kids make fun of me. It's
DVD. Yeah, no, I'm going to pick, you know what I'm going to pick? I'm going to pick maybe season 5 of The Simpsons on DVD. Because I think there's enough visually to find new things every time I watch it and learn something. And
there are
still be
Easter eggs
entertained.
everywhere in that show. Yeah.
Everywhere. I think it's light enough that I would feel optimistic and like I could still have the will to survive.
Now, the next question, what is your definition, stem to stern, what's your definition of a perfect day? From time you get up to time you kind of crash, what's the arc of that day for you?
A long walk in a very flat neighborhood or maybe like a place like the Huntington, a long walk there through the gardens that smells great, a gentle breeze, an oat milk cappuccino, maybe a lunch with one of my very close girlfriends or a phone call with my sister, dinner with my whole family.
Now, where's your family living now? Where are they all kind of in the same spot?
They're a little spread out. My brother and his wife are in Pittsburgh, and then my sister's actually in school at ACT right now, so she's getting her MFA from the same conservatory where I attended in acting. And then my parents are in Northern California outside of Sacramento. So mostly California, yeah. But basically some nature, some great conversation, and a lot of time with family. I'm very easy to please.
Yeah, I'm very much the same way. It's just I'm a man of simple means, as the late great Anthony Bourdain used to say. Now, last couple questions. Let's pretend like you had the option of doing anything else in the world and taking a break from acting. What would that be, or what would you be doing if you were not an actor?
I think it would probably be either journalism or it would still incorporate story for sure. Maybe editing a magazine or honestly podcasting. But yeah, it would still have to involve some form of finding good stories and telling them, which maybe is not too different from what I'm wanting to do right now, but it's a close cousin.
Now, the last question, if you could jump in your DeLorean and go back in time to when you were 16 years old, what advice are you going to give yourself from when you were 16 to your 16-year-old self that would alter the course in an even better way for you? Or maybe give you more peace or harmony or whatever.
Yeah. I think what I would tell her is what you have in your head of what you want is not nearly as great as what's coming. And if you can continue to believe that it's going to be even better than you can imagine, you don't have to strive so hard. You can expect to be surprised, and maintaining hopeful optimism will mean that you're going to be ready for anything, including the really, really, really good stuff that's coming your way.
Daydreaming is kind of its own superpower in that way. Dream it, conceive of it,
Yeah, but also don't let that, I guess what I mean by that is it sometimes that can become a trap where you like push for something, or you get so dead set on a certain dream and what you imagine that you're disappointed because it doesn't go exactly like how you planned, but actually it could be better than what you pictured, so I guess it's kind of an open palm attitude. Allow it to come in and allow it to go out.
Yeah, well, in this line of work, you've got to be okay with the only constant in life, which is change. If you're cool with that at a young age, it's so much harder to be like that.
Yeah.
And I wish I was more patient when I was younger. But
That's a good one too, for sure.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the opportunity to chat with you about the show. I mean, I think that is, again, I know for a fact I'm going to be sitting down with a friend. Something's going to come on TV and like, I talked to her a few years ago. Man, now it's you are such a pleasure to watch, and I enjoy your work immensely.
Thank you. It would be great if there was. I mean, I'm excited for, again, I'm trying to take my own advice that I would give to my 16-year-old self. No idea what the next thing is, and if this was all I did, I would be so satisfied. I already am satisfied.
Well, I'm going to go get a bucket of paint, and I'm going to paint on the side of one of Jeff Bezos' rockets. I'm going to paint Allegra Edwards, FYI.
FYI.
Just do the right thing. Yeah. But thank you again. It was such a pleasure, Allegra, and hopefully we'll have a chance to catch up down the line.
I would love that, and it was just a pleasure for me as well. So thank you, and great questions. It was a fun time.
Well, thank you. You have yourself a great one. And again, Jeff Bezos, I'm going to go hunt down his rocket right now.
FYI. Thank you.
Well, there you go. Allegra Edwards. Isn't she cool? I mean, I really enjoyed chatting with her. You're going to hear more from Allegra, without a doubt. She is a real pleasure, very talented, and looking forward to hopefully another season of upload. All right, so don't forget storyandcraftpod.com. Once again, storyandcraftpod.com. That's how you find out pretty much anything you want to find out about the show. Also, you can shoot me a note, whatever's on your mind. Leave me a voicemail. It's kind of cool. And to just generally get into what we got going on right here. Some really cool episodes on the way. Thank you thank you again for being here for this episode. I really appreciate it. And don't forget, head on over and give us a little review. Like, follow, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. And hey, do me a favor, have a great rest of your week. I'm looking forward to connecting with you next time right here on Story and Craft.
That's it for this episode of Story and Craft. Join Mark next week for more conversation right here on Story and Craft. Story and Craft is a presentation of Mark Preston Productions, LLC. Executive producer is Mark Preston. Associate producer is Zachary Holden. Please rate and review Story and Craft on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. You can subscribe to show updates and stay in the know. Just head to storyandcraftpod.com and sign up for the newsletter. I'm Emma Dillon. See you next time, and remember, keep telling your story.
Come on.